welcome. Thank you for joining us for our CTE, our Career Technical Education 101, Session 1. We hope you join us for the whole three-part series. We think this is going to be a good use of everyone's time. My name is Matt Wells. I'm the director for Mountain Desert Career Pathways. And if you're not familiar with Mountain Desert Career Pathways, what we are a consortium of 9 school districts. So a handful of years ago, superintendents from those districts all got together and formed this consortium. So it's Apple, Baker, Barstow, Hesperia, Lucerne, Silver Valley, Snowline, Trona, and Victor. I think I got them all there, but it's, we're all focused on CTE and career pathway alignment. And really it's ensuring that our school programs, regardless of what they are focused on what the industry needs are in the area. So we're making sure students are well set up for success in their career ventures. So with that, we're going to get started here in just a second. 2 points I would like to mention real quick is, first off, if you didn't get a notice, we are recording this session. So we're recording this so that we can make it available for anybody who's not able to participate today. And secondly, if you can take a moment in the chat as our virtual sign-in sheet and just put who you are and what school you're from, that would benefit us so we know who's there, who all is here with us today. So with that, Jessica, I don't know if you want to go to the next slide or if you had any other introductory stuff you want to add.
Nope, we're ready.
All right, so here we go, our overview. So we're going to be covering a handful of things about CTE today, but CTE is a big animal, so we're not going to be hitting it all. So here's kind of what we're going to hit real quick. We're going to talk about the essential elements of a high quality CTE program. I'm going to share a bit about just a sampling of some local career paths that you really should know about in your counselor or administrative roles. And then we're going to talk about CTE pathways and like course sequencing and completers, the college and career indicator, that CCI, the articulation and dual enrollment, CTE programs and alignment. We're going to do a recap. We're going to take some questions, and then we'll close out with sending out a survey and stuff. But we'll get to that. So first off, let me introduce the essential elements of a high quality CTE program. So you may have heard there were 11. So it was 11 elements of a high quality CTE program. The state shifted that around a bit, so now there's 12. And so so this is basically the list. There's a handful of things, and essentially, and I apologize for the background noise in my house, but essentially what it is there's a handful of targets here that districts need to make sure that they are providing a high quality, a high caliber program within CTE. And that's both for just compliance with high quality CTE in general, but it's important with all these bunch of different grant funding streams. Now, clearly, everybody here is not responsible for all 12 of these individually, but as a counselor or site administrator or whatever, there are certainly aspects of these that you contribute to and that you need to make sure you know about. So real quick, I'm not going to go into all of these today, but real briefly, I know you can read them, but there's leadership at all levels that certainly hits your area. High quality curriculum instruction, career exploration, guidance, student support, student leadership, industry partnership, system alignments, the next one we're going to hit today. And then we've got effective organizational design, system responsiveness to changing economic demands, skilled faculty and professional development. Then evaluation, accountability, and continuous improvement is the next one that we're going to be focusing on today. CT program outreach, marketing, communication, which obviously you guys with recruiting will have roles in that area too. And then equity and access is the new one that's added. So we'll get into some of these at a later point, but you can see those in blue are the ones we're going to hit today. Next slide. So I want to dive in a little bit about some local career paths that you need to know about. And so, and before we jump into this is kind of the vision, I guess, of the purpose of this is we certainly want to make sure that everybody knows what is required for a high quality CTE program. But the second thing is we really want to build this nice communication stream so that as we at MDCP are constantly engaged with industry partners, that those local career opportunities and those paths, that those are clear for everybody here on this meeting, so that that you have a nice communication stream, so you know what those opportunities are, so you can point kids in the right direction and helping them ensure that they're on the right path. Because it's great if we know that information, but if you guys aren't getting that information and while you're working directly with students, then there's a gap there. So here are 3 that I would like to share with you today. So next. So, let me start with the problems. Good. So the problem is when you talk with local industry, whether it's medical, manufacturing, aviation, transportation, pretty much across the board at the high desert, this is a consistent problem. And the problem is that a lot of local businesses are looking for technical jobs, have jobs in technical fields that really offer really good salaries, like family sustaining wage. These aren't like long-term entry-level minimum wage positions. These are really, really cool jobs. So next slide, or next point here. But the disconnect is that a lot of times they have these needs for these great jobs, like a millwright or something at a mine where you're going to be making great salaries, but they can't find the individuals who have the skilled talent to applying for those jobs. However, as y'all know, we have great programs in our schools with highly skilled students, so there's a disconnect there. And so a lot of businesses around the area are sharing troubles where basically what they're having to do is spending a ton of money on recruitment outside of the high desert. And so they're paying a bunch of money to recruit and to relocate somebody to our area. But the problem is when they get here, they stay for like 3 to 5 years and then they bail because they're not from the area. They're not invested in the area. And, they have a kid or whatever, and then they end up moving back towards grandparents or whatever the reason may be. So I know probably many of you grew up in the area or have long-term roots here. And there's a prevailing mindset with a lot of students that they have to leave to be successful. And so we want to break that mindset. I can't tell you how many times we've taken students on a field trip. One of the districts has gone to the airport and seen one of these companies we're going to share today, not just at the airport, but in general. And it's just like, this is what I've been waiting for. I didn't know this existed. And we want to get more of that information to you guys so that you're able to, you have a student who's like, I want to work with my hands. You're like, here's a bunch of options where you can make a really great salary. And so, we've got those great programs, those great opportunities. We want to connect those two. And so that's kind of what we're working on. And this is certainly a part of that solution. So here's 3 sectors. The first one, aviation and aerospace. So this is a picture from ComAv, which is what we're going to be featuring today. So next. So ComAv is, it's a company at the Southern California Logistics Airport, the old George Air Force Base. They are an MRO, which stands for Maintenance, Repair, and Overhaul Company. So they do everything from they'll do like maintenance on an aircraft, like an oil change or something like on your car, like you're used to. They will, they'll also, when a plane is no longer going to be flying, they'll take out the parts that can be reused, like the pilot's seat, and then repurpose that elsewhere or sell it or whatever, and then recycle the airplane. They also, a big thing that they've been doing, which is you can see here in this point, is they've had a huge influx of work when the Boeing 737 MAX was grounded that I'm sure y'all heard about a couple years ago. And then we went right into COVID where a lot of planes are not flying. And so if you don't know about the industry, when an aircraft is not going to fly, it still has to be maintained to basically to level as though it were going to be flying. So it has to have regular checks. It has to have regular maintenance. And so there may be non-critical maintenance that they will forego and they'll wrap an airplane and take care of it. But there's constant checks that they have to do. So if you've driven by the airport anytime recently, you'll see there are a ton of planes out there. And so ComAv, for a long time, they've been around 100 employees and they've wanted to grow because we have a really unique area in the high desert where the climate and just it makes it really nice to store aircraft long term. So they've wanted to grow their company and they're sending away work because they can't find the talent here to fill those positions. So they've grown from 100 to 300 recently. They want to reduce that amount of sending work elsewhere because that's frustrating to have to turn away work because you don't have the labor force. So, and these jobs are fantastic. I mean, they're making really, really good wages, which we'll show here in a second. But the A&P, if you've heard of A&P, it's the airframe and power plant licensing. Those are 2 different licenses. And they have a program at VVC. That's the gold standard for that A&P license in the industry. You've probably heard that, or hopefully you've heard of that. The VVC program is like an 18-month program. It's not a ton of money, and you could walk out making really good money. However, ComAv also will hire junior mechanics. So there was a good example of this out of Snowline. I had a student who was really excited about that company, went and talked to him, and he started work as a junior mechanic. He had some technical skills because he'd been in some CTE classes at the high school level. And then basically ComAv he's working there during the day, shadowing mechanics, and then ComAv's picking up his costs to work or to go to VVC to get his A&P license. And this A&P stuff is whether it's ComAv or GE Aviation is out there, General Atomics that you've heard about, Boeing or all these other companies that are involved in aviation, that A&P license is fantastic. And you're going to make, if you're working in an area like General Atomics or something where students could potentially deploy to go take care of aircraft elsewhere, I mean, they're making six figures within a couple of years. It's unbelievable. And the amount of, even though the aviation is kind of paused at the moment for like people flying, the maintenance side has stayed consistent, and it's expected within a few years for things to come back pretty strong. So that's one sample. If you go to the next slide, it shows we have these cool infographics that are available on our website. If you go to that mdcareerpathways.com website, and I know there was a link where we can share the link. I think she just shared the link.
There's shared out this yesterday with them.
Perfect. That labor markets report stuff, you can find all these infographics in here. So I don't want to go through this in detail, other than down at the bottom middle, you can see the starting salaries. I mean, 54,000 up to 97,000, and that's for staying local, working in these positions and these things. Whether it's Boeing, ComAv, all those things on the left there are listed are local companies where students could apply and get started on a really cool career. And every time we've taken students out there, they are excited and jazzed to be there. So really cool. That's the first one I want to share. Next, manufacturing. So manufacturing, we have a very active high desert manufacturing council made of a whole bunch of industry partners who see manufacturing as booming. So right now, I want to focus on just in mining. So in mining, we've got three cement plants. You've got Cal Portland, Cemex, and Mitsubishi Cement. And then there's the Rio Tinto borax mine out in Boron. So what's interesting during COVID within those companies, they have seen an unbelievable influx of work. So I think they're like out of product. Like they've just been cooking along, like jamming like crazy work. Steve Terrell, who's out at Mitsubishi Cement, has said like in the last few months they've been making the biggest shipments they've ever made. So I don't know what it is, the correlation, but a lot of time to work on projects, I guess, is they're booming like crazy. Like aviation, they need people in the mechatronics type world. If you've heard that mechatronics statement, so that's things like mechanical, electrical. That's where you get mechanical mechatronics. Those technical skill sets are hugely in demand. They need things like welders, fabricators, mechanics, electricians, millwrights. And if you know anything about these positions, they are really well paid positions over time. They're really interesting work. A lot of times the same thing. The students have driven by these mines or the plants many times on the freeway or whatever, and it looks like a dusty old plant. But then you go in there and they go check it out, and they're like, this is awesome. Like, look, I can weld, I can fabricate the trucks. Like, I have a brother-in-law who worked through one for a long time. Like the tires on these trucks are like 2 stories tall. It's unbelievable. It's amazing stuff. And every time that students are out there, they're jazzed. A lot of them will hire through like either directly or through a temp agency, and some of it's frustrating work at the beginning. I don't say frustrating for some because they don't see the end goal in mind. So you might be working a shovel for a while, but the thing is the career trajectory is fantastic because you're making $2 raises pretty frequently, and pretty soon you're at a great salary. And then also the Manufacturing Council has been really involved with Victor Valley College with the training center. So if you've heard about the training center, they've got a big space out there, and they're going to be working on doing some like incumbent training for employees to elevate them into positions. And then that's going to turn into a bunch of entry-level opportunities for people who come in who are interested in doing things like welding and mechanics and electronics or electrical. So a lot of really neat opportunities there to know about, especially for kids who want to do hands-on stuff. So on the screen here, you can see the salary projections. And again, you're starting at $35,000 and experience is 60. And even then that's just within the positions that are showed here. If someone's going to work way up and they're being like that millwright position that I mentioned earlier, I think every plant right now needs millwrights, and millwrights are like your MacGyver kind of jack of all trades, can fix anything. Because like essentially like at one of these plants, if you've got this big piece of equipment, big machine, and something breaks on it, you're not going to drive down to Home Depot and buy a part. Like they're making the part, and so the people, I mean, they're easily in the six figures. They're in demand people, and these are incredible positions. We featured one of them in a blog on our website, who's a female millwright out at Rio Tinto. So I would suggest you check that out if you haven't seen that. So a lot of neat opportunities, and you can see it's not just in mining on here. We've got a lot of manufacturers that are listed. So it's another cool opportunity for students. And we're featuring a lot of these folks in some web chats as well. And the next slide. The last one I'm going to talk about is construction. So interestingly, construction is booming right now. There's a substantial expansion expected, whether it's you're talking because of logistics needs or the home constructions, obviously in like the Hesperia thing, the Hesperia homes that are coming in that I'm totally drawing a blank on the name right now. And then with the train, you can see here, I mean, obviously this is not the train in its current form, but the high-speed rail train that is coming. If you want to click a couple more, Jessica, so I can.
Oh,
There we go. So we've got most of the districts have programs in construction. So, and these are aligned well both to the community college program at Victor Valley College, as well as the Carpenters Union that's down in Ontario. We've got a great relationship with them, as well as the other unions out there. They're a great setup for like the electrical union or the other builders unions. And they're making great wages starting. It's excellent training. They're out there, if you want to build a house or you want to build a bridge, like they got incredible training opportunities. There's a lot of short-term certificates with Victor Valley College, or like if you're the construction programs that are aligned to the Carpenters Union students can get into direct entry opportunities. The quick bit of news, if you've heard, so there was the Virgin trains. Now they have the company separated from Virgin now, and now it's Brightline, but the train is coming into Apple Valley to Vegas train. They're expecting construction to still move forward in the next year. And, there's potentially going to be hiring combine coming. And so if you're familiar with sports, they'll do like a sports combine, and, they've got all the basketball players, football players, whatever, doing all their doing different drills on the field, and you got the coaches looking and the scouts picking people, essentially doing similar idea with construction. So potentially coming quarter one or quarter two, an opportunity for students to go demonstrate their skills and potentially get picked up by carpenters who are going to be doing some of the massive construction projects that are involved with building a high-speed rail. And if you know anything about what the plans for that, the plan is to build it from Apple Valley out at like the Dale Evans Center to Vegas. And with that, I mean, they're talking high class here, where it's like, you step on the train, your bags will be at your hotel when you get there, hand you a drink, a very nice thing. And so there's going to be restaurants and transportation and hospitality opportunities for things to be growing and businesses to start as Apple Valley becomes a hub for that. And then also once that's built, they're going to be doing a connection. Their plans to do a connection from Apple Valley to Lancaster area, so they could pick up the train traffic coming from LA. So interesting secondary construction opportunities coming as well, and that's going to be a big economic boom for the area. You can see on this screen the demand is like 1,700 jobs in the next 5 years in our area, 11,000 in the county. So again, a lot of opportunity. You're looking at $38,000 to start, 73,000 experienced with, and really that you could go beyond that depending on what kind of career paths people are taking. But again, when the students are going and seeing these settings, they tend to be pretty jazzed because they didn't, they're not sure, they didn't realize the opportunities that are there. And so those construction pathways at the high schools, whether it's the woodworking or an ag mechanics thing or a specific construction, are preparing students pretty well for these. Because the thing you hear, it's what differentiates the students, right? When they go to take an entrance exam and they can actually read a tape measure, and they can actually, they understand units and stuff and measurements and stuff like that. They're going to separate themselves when they have to take an entrance exam. And anytime these students are coming out of these programs and they can articulate, say, hey, I want to work at the mine, and I've been in a machining program, and so, or I've been in a welding program or whatever, they're going to differentiate themselves because they're competing with just kind of an random person who's coming in who is choosing between, do I go fast food? Do I go work at a tape, go through a labor pool and work at a mine? The individual who's invested in it over a couple of years is going to be far more attractive, and the mines or whomever is going to be more interested in picking them up. So these are just three, but we want to feature more of these as for you guys to kind of see as we go on. And for instance, like yesterday, we got an email from, I think, Cemex, that they were hiring, or Cal Portland, I remember was one of them, but they were saying, hey, we need people, like we still need people, get us your applicants. So, we want to make sure that individuals are aware of those things and that you're building programs or you're supporting your programs towards careers, kids getting these cool careers.
do CTE pathway course sequence and completers by our curriculum specialist and my partner, Carrie O'Neill. Welcome.
Hi guys. Hi guys, welcome. I'm so excited to be here. Like Jessica said, my particular information is going to cover our CTE pathways, what they are, what does it take. And so we'll go in a little bit deeper in that. And Matt really kind of hit the nail on the head. CTE can be a very complex animal. So we're going to try to keep it simple. All right, Jessica, go ahead. Thank you. All right, so each school has established CTE pathways that your administration has put into place, your CTE coordinators have discussed and put into place. They've also created some CTE pathway maps to guide student scheduling, to guide master scheduling or teaching assignments. So some of the things that I'm going to talk about are just some of the things that the CTE coordinators must consider when they're developing those pathways. The CTE pathways are based off the 15 career sectors that the state has adopted. There's up to about 58 different possible CTE pathways that a school could have. Obviously, we don't have that many. When you have a smaller school, you're going to have a smaller number of pathways. But most important is that CTE pathway needs to be taught by a CTE credentialed teacher. And what's important about that is that if a teacher is credentialed in maybe computers, there's multiple types of pathways that can be taught. And that CTE teacher can teach what they have industry experience in. And so it's really, really important to rely on your CTE coordinators. If you have a question about what a CTE teacher can teach, always go back and speak to that CTE coordinator because they're going to have the knowledge about what that teacher can teach in case there's a change in the schedule that needs to be made. The next thing is that those CTE pathways are aligned with labor market demands like Matt was talking about. We have certain demands in labor, and so our CTE pathways should be aligned with that, and they inform what we're doing in the classroom. Another thing that's super important is that most of the funding that CTE pathways or CTE programs get are funded by state and federal grants. And with that comes a lot of restrictions and guidelines that schools have to follow. And your CTE coordinators are really working hard to ensure that the pathways are following the guidelines and restrictions that the state is asking us to do. Go ahead. There's so many different reports that your CTE coordinators are working on and your CTE specialists. I don't want to forget them because they're super important as well. Throughout the year, they're doing different reports for just the program alignment, the data that is collected each year. So it's super important that the courses are aligned with the CalPADS course codes that have been established by the state. So if there's a change in a course in your student information system, that always just say, hey, call up your coordinator and say, hey, is this correct course codes and so forth? Because what happens at the end is that when we report our data, if those course codes and that information in the SIS system is not correct, then we don't get the credit. We're not getting recognized for all the great work that we're doing here at our schools. So our student information systems are so important in reporting the different areas and that we need to report with our CTE programs. And just to mention them in this next bullet is that our CTE coordinators and our specialists are ensuring every year, in the end of the year, they're making sure that each student has been identified as a completer. So that's a big deal. If things are missed or things are not accurately reported in your SIS, then that information becomes, like I said, incomplete. So our students are getting reported at the end of the year that they either have completed that pathway, that they are part of, that they have completed work-based learning. That's a new reporting requirement this year. So our coordinators and our specialists are going to have to determine how that's going to be reported and who's going to be doing what. So we have different certifications for different pathways That is also reported in your CalPad or your student information system. We also have to poll our students, our graduates at the end of the year and ask them what they're doing. That's part of the post-secondary data that we have to collect from students. And that's all reported in our student information system, uploaded into CalPads and get certified, and then it reports into our CCI. So Jessica's going to talk about that later, but I'll continue on with the CTE pathways. So in order to be a CTE pathway completer, there's a requirement. Now, the pathway is a comprehensive sequence of courses within an industry sector, and the required minimum minutes of time that they have to spend in this sequence is 300 hours. So it's roughly a 2-year sequence minimum, and they have to have a C- or better to complete that pathway. Okay. Now, this is an example of what a 2-year sequence would look like. And we've just used an example of an industry sector, which is auto. And so if a student is in auto, their first year is going to be called the concentrator class. And so when you're looking at your CTE pathway maps that your coordinators have given you, you're going to see whether or not that particular auto class is the first one. So you're going to make sure that the students are in that first year course. And then when they're ready to go transition over to their second year, you're going to use that pathway maps to guide you on which is the second year course for that first year that matches. And it has to be 300 hours or more. And like I said, your CTE coordinators have established the maps. So hopefully that makes it super easy for you guys if you just use that and know which one comes after the first one. But they should always be mapped from a concentrator to a capstone course. Sometimes schools will have a 3-year course sequence to complete a pathway, and that would include an additional course, which is, and you can see that the introductory course and the concentrator course, they are going to be more than 300 hours. So it's just a matter of choice for that particular pathway and that particular site. But you always have to follow the certain course sequence, because when we're out of course sequence, then we don't have completers. Okay. So this is a rarer occurrence. You're usually going to have a 2-year sequence, but occasionally you're going to have a capstone course that is a 1-course sequence completer. That means they're going to take this course and it's going to be a double block, a block period. And that will be, once they finish that year of the 2-block course period, they will be a completer. Now, some of the reasons why we do that is just that there are different sectors that require that intensiveness of having that that block. Now, the one thing that you need to consider is that when you have that double block or that block period, that your roster has the same students on each of those. Okay, so that's what the state is looking for, and they are asking the programs to make sure that they have. Okay. All right, so on the screen, you see that, there will be times that you're going to get a student and you might realize later that, hey, wait a minute, they're not in the right course. So this is one of the pitfalls of course scheduling. And, the more that you're informed and you're aware of what the pathways are, the easier it is for you to advise students and get them in that right pathway. So if they're taking an introductory course, it has to be in the same industry sector. If you look at the second course, it says the concentrator is fine, but it's in welding. So it's not in the same industry sector. It's not in that same pathway. So a completer in this case, because they're 2 different sectors. Okay, go ahead.
So next up, I am going to talk about CTE and what that means with our CCI, our College Career Indicator, and really taking a deeper dive on the evaluation, accountability, and continuous improvement process in that. When the state released the LCFF F, they came up with the new dashboard, and the the 6 state California indicators, the ELA and math assessment, graduation rates, EL progress, suspension rate, chronic absentees, and what we're really taking our deeper dive on today is our college career indicator, often known as and referred to as the CCI. So I know that you guys are probably familiar with seeing this little diagram off to the right, but what we're really focusing again is that college and career indicator and how that pertains to our CTE programs. Back in the day when we had the API and schools wanted to be this, make sure we're 800 school, not a 600 school, not really many people understood what does that mean? What is 600? What is 800? So with that, the indicator really is helping decode what that is and changing so that our continual quality improvement process is actually happening. And it's not something to look at as negative, like, oh, we're doing bad. It's really that moment and see where are we doing great at and where can we improve for the betterment of our students. So we have 3 different levels: prepared, approaching prepared, and not prepared. So we really want to take a look into what does it mean to be prepared when it comes to our CTE programs. So as you guys can see, this in the lower right-hand corner has the October 19th, the updated version of the 8 areas to measure prepared. So today we're going to look at the number 7. And we're going to give you a couple examples of just how you can understand number 7. So our baseline is when students first in all of these 1 through 8 segments is graduating high school. So we have to take our graduating high school seniors, and then they can complete their pathway with a C- or better in their capstone course, plus one of the additional factors. One being whether or not they receive a 3 or better in the math or EL portion of their SBSA, and then subsequently a 2 in the latter. Or they can graduate high school, complete their medical pathway with a C- in their capstone course, and take a semester class at the college and earn a C or better in that class. They can do that either with dual enrollment or even our articulated classes that are offered at the schools. Now, the caveat to that is that they must receive those credits. If those credits don't hit the transcripts, then we don't get that little point, that chip mark. Again, it's really important to look at this as not a naughty list, good list, but more of how are we reflecting what your guys' good works really are and making sure that we're getting the most out of it. So like we said, number 7, they can graduate high school, complete a pathway, and also take an articulated course, and that student is considered prepared. But while we're here, I also want to take a moment and look at number 4, college credit courses. So the state has identified that what is prepared in college, what are students being prepared by taking a college course means if they're successful in that, then they're prepared. And that's exactly what number 4 kind of goes into depth about. So if you have a student and they've taken 2 articulated courses, they took 1 articulated course and then an additional dual enrollment course, and they've graduated, they're prepared to graduate high school and they're ready to go, then guess what? They are prepared. Okay, so moving on to number 8. When we look at number 8, making sure that our students are A through G, they're meeting their A through G requirements. One of the things that I really want to point out and give kudos to every person and really hitting that leadership at all levels in our area is that we are moving towards our CTE classes being A through G approved. Some of our districts already have all of those completed. Some are moving quickly towards adopting that. And what I really love about that is for students, it's the success of our students. We're not shoehorning them as we used to in a path that says, hey, guess what? You want to go to college, you have to take these classes. No, you can't. No. I know it might be nice for you to try to do woodworking, or you may have a passion for medical, but you have to take these classes. classes, now we're opening doors for our students and giving them those opportunities to do both. Be prepared for college in those A through G courses with a C- or better. And to get the prepared from number 8, our students can take complete a pathway. So with our pathways being A through G and them passing all their A through G requirements with a C-, they get their preparedness in section 8. So I think it's really just important to see that when it's related to CTE especially, there are lots of different opportunities for our students to be, one, successful, but for also that success and hard work that each one of you guys are doing in our region is transferring to our dashboard indicator. And so we're really getting that benefit and seeing that success. Okay, so I want to give a shout out to Dr. Tarango. I asked her, and she was very gracious to make an MDC pathway college and career readiness poster. She did it for all of her high schools in Hesperia. So we now have one that is MDC, Mountain Desert Career Pathways, that all of you guys can post in your offices or in your schools should you want to. And it really just breaks through the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of how to be considered a prepared student in the CCI indicator. I sent out an email this morning, I'm sorry, excuse me, it was yesterday, that had all those links. So if you haven't seen that, just check your email. It is in there, and it will be at the end of this presentation as well for your resources. Okay. One of the things as an administrator and as a teacher that was hard for me was understanding the calculation. Where does this calculation come from? How do we get from blue to green, from yellow to what is this? And how does this happen? Because we feel we're doing a great job and our kids are doing great things, but where does that land and how does that come? So I really wanted to kind of help guide you guys through that and that calculation. So in terms of it, you want to take the number of your graduates in this current year that are designated prepared, and you want to divide that number by the students in the total students in that graduating class. So that's one, you want to take the total number of your seniors that are designated prepared and divide that by your total graduating seniors of this year. And then point 2 is you have to take this year's data and subtract it from last year's data. And so that's sometimes when I first started getting into understanding the dashboard, that is what really confused me. So I want to walk you through an example of that. So if we look at Big League High School, they have 30 graduating seniors that they have identified in one of the 7, 4, or 8s, perhaps as CTE prepared students, but they can be prepared from any one of the 1 through 8. But for today's purposes, we'll use CTE. We're really trying to drive that home. So 30 of them have been designated prepared, and they have a total graduating class of 50. So that gives them a total of 60% of their graduating seniors are designated prepared. So that's a good job. And then they're going to take their last year's data, which was 50%. So only 50% of their seniors were designated prepared. So that's an increase, a bump in what they did last year to this year at 10%. So that's a great job. And so what we want to do is take this first arrow and on the performance level, go up to where you find your first percentage of 60% because you took because it's this year's data. So from this year's data, you're going to go from very low because you see the percentage, and you land in a Big League High School lands in the 55 to 69.9 for the current school year. And then they're going to move over based on what their prior school year was, and the subtraction of it, which was an increased bump of 10%. So you're going to move over on this one, and it's going to land you in, and I'm sorry, the text box is in my way, in the blue. So that's how that calculation is done when it comes to your indicate the dashboard. So I hope that makes sense. One of the things I want to give a huge kudos out, and I'm super blessed to be able to work with her as all of MDCP, but we have an amazing data guru, Andy, and the infographics that Matt was showing, she designed those and developed them because we really found that there was a lack of understanding of what's going on in the backyard. And I'm a graduate of Hesperia High School. My kids go to school here. Her counselor is online, which I want to say hi to, and thank you for all of the things she does for her because she's amazing, Miss Hallett. Andy has developed these labor market infographics for us and for our school districts and our students to be able to really see what's going on here where our kids live, eat, and play, and we want them to stay. She's also done that here in the school district CCI report. I'm a super competitive person, so I've asked Andy that if any of you guys are interested, it's awesome to see your district as a whole, but for me, I would want to dig even a little bit deeper and see what is it my school is doing and how can I see where I'm at. So in this infographic, I want to kind of point out Victor Valley High School had 1,002 students in the 2019 school year be designated prepared. Again, I sent these all out for all of the schools districts to your email yesterday, but that's a great job. And then I want to point out that Apple Valley High School had a 24.8 increase from 2017 to 2019. So these little infographics are very beneficial at a snap just to see where we're at, what we're doing great, where we need to improve, truly for the benefit of our students. One thing I want to point out is that our districts, a whole as a region, have seen high success because the efforts that you guys are making in your coding and your tracking, as well as our articulation with our community colleges and our dual enrollment, we're seeing improvement because it wasn't that you weren't doing that great work. It might have been falling through the cracks like Carrie mentioned earlier with that coding piece and where are we making sure that pathways are aligned and so on. So I also included the little website, the CDE website at the bottom, and I'll send this PowerPoint out to you guys after this is done. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Mackenzie Tarango. She's going to take us through CTE articulation and dual enrollment and how that really ties back into everything CTE does and the benefits our students can get from that. So welcome, Dr. Tarango.
Thank you. So Jessica went into a lot of detail on what talking about articulation and dual enrollment courses as it pertains to the CCI. So we want to take a deeper dive into what is the difference between articulation and dual enrollment to have a clearer understanding of the two, as it's very important in today's age for two main reasons. One, it plays a large role in the CCI, but also because it saves time and money for our students when they're able to complete college classes while they're still in high school. Next slide. So what is articulation? When Webster's dictionary may give you one definition and you can walk down to San Bernardino and get a different one. Every region uses the phrase articulation and dual enrollment a little bit differently. Usually still tied to the same subject, but just a little different. So for the sake of when we're talking about CTE and and CCI, and we're talking about articulation, what we're talking about is a high school course. And in our region, we only articulate CTE courses because that's all VVC and Barstow will articulate with us. So in our region, articulation is a high school CTE course taught by a high school teacher on a high school master schedule that we have obtained a formal written agreement with VVC or Barstow saying that they agree that this is equivalent to their class and that upon successful completion, as indicated by B or better, that a student qualifies to receive college credit. So the college credit isn't automatically given, and I know that many of you know that because you work tirelessly on getting the students enrolled at VVC or getting their paperwork processed at Barstow, because the student every college has a little bit different of a process, but the student, we have to tell VVC, and then VVC puts it on their college transcript. One of the questions that people ask often about articulation is, well, is it gonna show on VVC that they took this in high school? Is it not going to count? No, there is, if you took if you took Auto 50 at VVC or you received Auto 50 credit at a high school, when you pull a VVC transcript, it will be identical. You cannot tell whether or not the student received the credit from a high school or received the credit because they took the class at dual enrollment. One of the questions is, well, does the kid only have to be enrolled in the articulation class for one semester? No, the student has to be enrolled for the entire school year in order to receive college credit. With one exception. Some classes, and I would say Victor has an example of this, they have an EKG course that's articulated with VVC that's just a semester course as adopted by Victor. And so those students can earn their articulated course, their articulated credit upon completing that semester. Most other courses across the region are 1 year articulated courses. So what does that mean? If you take Auto 1 at your school, it's a year-long high school course. Upon successful completion of that year-long high school course, the student will earn one semester, specifically 4 credits of Auto 50 from the college. So that is what what articulation is. And so when we kind of want to circle back to the CCI, when we say like that articulated courses can count towards your college credit, it is when Johnny completes one of our articulated courses with a B or better and physically receives that credit. Meaning if Johnny completes Auto 50, but we never finish the next steps to get him actually get that credit on his transcript, you're not legally allowed to claim that as it pertains to your CCI. So Johnny has to successfully complete the articulated course with a B or better, and it also must be on his college transcript as well. Do they ever ask us for that? No. Can they? Yes. So that is their audit mechanism. So the question that comes up often is, how do you secure articulations? So for VVC specifically, every college has it just a little bit different, but since we primarily work with VVC in this region, I'll speak to that and then briefly go over Barstow. In VVC, we have an agreement with them that we will secure all articulations through our CTE advisories. If you are not aware, each of our CTE industry sectors are required to have an advisory where we meet with our college professors, other local teachers in that industry, as well as industry specific representatives to kind of discuss the curriculum, see where we need to adjust it, what we need to align what we're doing in high school to with what we're doing in college. So in that meeting that takes place annually for each individual industry sector, so meaning we can have up to 15 different of these meetings, VVC sends their representatives, we send our representatives, and we review our courses to identify whether or not they're in alignment. Sometimes everyone says, yay, this is, perfect, great job, we're going to sign on the dotted line, which there's no dotted line, they just agree and it's tracked in the minutes. Or they could say, you know what, you're kind of stuck in 1982 and we need you to change A, B, and C. And as long as the receiving school is willing to change A, B, and C, then VVC generally agrees. At the conclusion of all these advisories, then an MOU is drafted. The MOU goes to your board for board approval, and it goes to VVC's board for board approval. And that's the formal MOU that your CTE representatives will share with you that shows what is articulated for what. And there's a link in here for the articulations. Now, keep in mind, just on this note, that we should have had brand new MOUs last spring, but with COVID, they were all put on hold. So we anticipate having our renewed MOUs here in the next a month or two. So that's our anticipation. At Barstow, it's a little, we just reach out to them. We reach out to their CTE director and to their department chairs, and we to help let them know what we want to articulate. We have a couple meetings. Sometimes that's an advisory, sometimes it's not. They have some paperwork that we need to fill out, and then once they sign off on it, then that's our legal document that it was articulated. So how does the student secure the college credit? Because as I said, just because the course is articulated doesn't mean Johnny gets the credit automatically. The student secures college credit by whatever method the respective college set up. So let me speak to VVC. They say that the student must have an active application, and it has to be for spring. So there was confusion in the past where some of us want to be like, oh, we are going to get this done with early, and we knocked it out, in August. We got everybody applied, just to find out we had to go back and do it again because they need everybody to be applied for spring. So you could still start applying for spring in the fall semester. Just make sure that you don't start before the student's actually able to apply for spring. At that point, then every school has some sort of counselor who is identified. It's usually the bridge counselor, but it could be different at your school site, who is responsible of collecting the grades from the teachers and then submitting the grades to VVC as these are the grades for the classes. And then as long as all those students, so you have a list of 100 students with what grade they got, A or B, and then as long as all of those 100 students have an active application at VVC or an active account at Barstow, then the student, then VVC just goes in and manually inputs the class and the grade on the student's transcript. So again, how does it impact the CCI on the dashboard? If a student makes it all the way to the step where they're receiving credit and you've confirmed that, then you can report them as they've received credit, and they are calculated as just as the same as if they walked down to VVC and took a class and received college credit. Next slide. Okay, so we talked about articulation and oops, sorry. And now its little friend, dual enrollment, is also about college classes and also plays an important role on the CCI. So what is dual enrollment? Well, unlike the articulation courses, it's a college course, not a high school course. And it's taught by a college professor. And put a little asterisk there because what you see is that some of our college professors are also high school CTE teachers, right? But remember, they can't only be a high school CTE teacher. They have to be hired. They have to meet the minimum qualifications set forth by the chancellor's office and go through the hiring process and be hired by VVC as a college professor. So in that moment, when that teacher's on your campus and they're teaching a dual enrollment class, unlike articulation, they're no longer an employee of the district at that point. So some of our teachers, what we do is that they teach a dual enrollment class 6 periods. So instead of their duty day ending at after 6 period, they started their duty day during 0 period. So their prep was 0 period, and then they taught their 5 periods, and then their duty day ended at 5th period. The 6th period, they became an employee of VVC or a respective college. So that's why the asterisk there. College course taught by a college professor. How can a student take a dual enrollment class? Well, there's 2 different mechanisms of taking it. You can do it through either the CCAP agreement, which most of you are referring to as dual enrollment. And that's where we enter into a formal MOU with the college under legislation that allows us to offer classes to our high school students, only our high school students, meaning we don't have to open it to John Doe public, free of charge to the students, meaning they don't pay any fees. And also we must legally provide them the materials and books and not require them to pay for them. And that's under the CCAP agreement. Some of you call it Early College Academy. Some of you call it dual enrollment. The second option is what many of you often refer to as concurrent enrollment. And that's the non-CCAP agreement, meaning that's when Johnny just goes on down to the college and says, I'm going to enroll in this math class. In both of these scenarios, CCAP or non-CCAP, the students still require that the VVC requires, and all community colleges require that a dual enrollment form is completed. So that's why I really wanted to let you know that the phrase dual enrollment, while we often associate it in this region with CCAP, it actually is all encumbering. It's an umbrella phrase, and it has 2 types of dual enrollment: CCAP, non-CCAP. Both require students to get permission from administration and parents in order to participate on that dual enrollment form. Unlike articulation, on a dual enrollment class, if a student gets an F that F goes onto their transcript, on their college transcript. So this is permanent, right? It's not like, oh, Johnny got a C in his Auto 1 class, so, but it won't have any impact on his high school, on his college transcript. That's true. But if Johnny gets a C in a dual enrollment class or an F, that's on there. So that always stays. Dual enrollment classes. So just like the articulation is a high school course that you then can get college credit for, dual enrollment is a college course that you get college credit, but you could also bring the transcript back and get to the high school and get multiplied credits. So the most commonly used equation is 1 college credit equals 3.33. So for example, if you took Auto 50 at the college, you would get 13.33 credits, often rounded up. And every high school, every district has a different method of what they require the students to do to get the credit, and also a different, it's a local control on what you get. So if I take English 101 through dual enrollment, it's local control that decides what does that count for high school. So some of the local high schools say, well, that counts for only senior English, and then other high schools say, well, it counts for 9th through 12th. It can cancel out any one of those English, and that's decided on a local level. So how do you just secure a CTE dual enrollment course at your site? All dual enrollment that's on the site is secured through the CCAP process. And you would want to speak, probably your college and career readiness counselor or your head counselor, or your bridge counselor, somebody who's actively playing a role in that, but for sure your site administrator. And basically what it has to do is that there's a list of courses that are allowed. So if we wanted to teach Auto 77.3 at a school, it's on a list that says that we can choose from that course. So basically, you cannot select any course your heart desires off of VVC's catalog to put on to use as a dual enrollment course at your high school. It has to be on a pre-approved list. So the first step is the course already on a CCAP MOU approved list? If not, then your next step would be to start advocating that it be added on for the next round. And so you may be looking at 1 to 2 years out before that can happen. So how do you secure it? You find out whoever your representative is for the CCAP agreement, and you request that it be added. If you're requesting it be added and you have no teacher in mind, then you just submit your request. If you're like, oh my God, my auto teacher would be great at it, and we can move his schedule around and we can free him up 6 periods so he could be a dual enrollment instructor, then then your CCAP representative needs to share that with Chris Piercy and whoever is they're communicating with at VVC, so then they can help you in assisting your automotive teacher to go through the hiring process, which any of you participated in that hiring process with VVC knows is a very long process. So you want to get started as soon as possible. So can you hire a high school teacher to teach dual enrollment? Absolutely, if they meet the minimum qualifications and if you can maneuver their schedule around so that it doesn't double dip, i.e. if they're on the clock for 6 period, they cannot be a dual enrollment instructor as well. Unlike articulation, where they are only a high school instructor at that time. So again, the chancellor's office sets the minimum qualifications, and then VVC or respective college has the ability to say yay or nay on hiring the individual. So how does the student secure the college credit? It's automatically placed on their transcript. Good, bad, or indifferent, it's automatically placed on their transcript. How did they get it on their high school transcript? That's a local decision. How does it impact the CCI on the LCF dashboard? Everywhere you saw on that little box that had 8 different options, then it says college credit, this meets that college credit. So whether that dual enrollment is done through CCAP on your campus or through non-CCAP on VVC's campus, it meets that requirement. Next slide. So what are the primary, compare and contrast of dual enrollment and articulation? Articulation, high school course. Dual enrollment, college course. Articulation, high school teacher. Dual enrollment, college professor. Caveat, could possibly also be a high school teacher, but in that moment is a college professor. Articulation is only for CTE courses for our region. Dual enrollment can be a variety of subjects. It just has to, you can only pick courses that are approved on the approved MOU list. Articulations are formalized through an MOU process through individual advisories, and dual enrollment is an MOU process formalized through the CCAP dual enrollment meetings. And both of these groups, what are some similarities? I'm sorry. What are some similarities between articulation and dual enrollment? Well, they both have to do with college. And most importantly, they both save our students time and money as they continue their educational journey. On the other side, it can also help, can qualify for both high school and college credit for the student, as well as count towards how we're being judged as school districts of preparing our students for the CCI.
Take you through what CTE programs and alignments are and how important they are, and really ensuring that that leadership at all levels within all of our stakeholders is there, and just creating that seamless alignment, systems alignment for the betterment of our students. So it's really, to me, the best way I can look at it is a puzzle. And I'm really big on numbers and how things look at the end. So if you look at it as a puzzle, it goes in several different ways. The first puzzle piece is our middle school CTE exploration, our CTE pathways at the high school, our community college CTE pathways, and then our finale, which is our high wage, high skills, in demand local jobs. So when we're looking at middle school, our goal is really, well, before I go there, I want to go back and say CT alignment and really understanding what that is and what it is doing. So it is helping our students and their lives and the future of what they're able to do. It's not just about what's on our dashboards, but it's fully preparing them for the continual success throughout their life and securing those high wage, high demand local jobs for the betterment of their family, their future families to come. Because we often see, like, when those students stop coming into those counselors' doors, when we stop seeing them in our hallways, how do we know that they've been successful? So we need to really make sure that our leadership at all levels, whether that's at the middle schools, the high schools, the community colleges, and our local industry, are all working together to connect that puzzle piece for the betterment of who? Our students, because they are the most important thing in this puzzle. So we want that alignment at all those levels to go. So really diving deeper, we want to make sure that at middle school, our students are exploring CTE. They're taking a class here and they're taking a class there and they're seeing what they love. And we'd really love to see that start to happen at the elementary schools. But for the sake of today's conversation, at the elementary schools, we'll really just focus today at the middle schools and really hoping that we're making sure our students are exploring different pathways, different things that life has to offer to them, so that when they get to our high school, that they are selecting that path and that pathway, that CTE pathway, and they're moving forward towards success. Like Carrie talked about, it's a sequence of courses. So although as a mom, I would love to see my kids go to high school and say, you know, I'm gonna try culinary arts and I'm gonna try this and I'm gonna try that. We can't have that happen right now. That's something that should have happened when they were in middle school. When I was in college, when I was in high school, I never took a CTE course because I was on that path to be going to college. So I had to take these things. So I didn't get to explore different avenues and really be able to see what my true passion was. I just knew I had to take these A through G courses, and this is what I was going to do because I wanted to go to college. So luckily, and I'm so fortunate that that's not what our students nowadays have to do. They get to really, in elementary school, middle school, do that exploration and then dive deeper into it in their CTE pathway while they're in high school. And then we want to continue that pathway, whether that is at the next step at the community college or a skilled trade school that they're going to, and then securing that high wage, high skill, high demand local career. And we have found in many studies that has really set up our high school students for success in that transition to that next step in life, and they're ready to go. So we just want to continue to make sure that pathway is there. And then taking that one step further, when we're CTE coordinators, administrators, counselors, we really want to kind of take that puzzle and look at the end and the very last piece: high wage, high skills, high in demand local careers. And how can we take that piece of the puzzle and backwards map so that we're making sure that all of our levels are aligned and we are really setting up our students for success to that last puzzle piece. So for example, if we've offered basket weaving for 20 years and everyone loves basket weaving, they've done it since elementary school, and we have 100 kids trying to enroll in basket weaving, but what does basket weaving give them at the end? So we really kind of have to take those tough calls as administrators and the leaders of our community and say, you know what, we gotta move from basket weaving, and we gotta really prepare our students for things like Matt said earlier in the presentation, that high-speed railroad that's coming, the CMEX company that's begging for kids to apply and be prepared and have those skills that they need, and looking at our community and saying, what's coming now, what's coming in 5 years, and what do we need to do to prepare those students for those jobs? Because that's what helps our students and our community. So today's effort is to bring awareness to all of these wonderful things, but also our goal is to bring awareness to you guys, all of our stakeholders, our leadership at all of the levels, and ensuring that seamless transition from K-12 pathways to college, trade school, and beyond. So in doing just that, and in some of our other segments, we want to make sure, my little chat thing is right in the way of this, that we bring our local community to life to you. I know I have several friends that are counselors that maybe don't know. And so I think it's important that when you're the first one that sees our kids. So if you can set them on those right paths and letting them know that's what's going on, then that's our job to bring those to you guys. And so that's exactly what we're going to do today with this opportunity that we have at VVC.
Are you looking for a career pathway that will prepare you for a high-wage, high-skill, in-demand career in the high desert? Victor Valley College's Automotive Dealership Technician Cohort program is the pathway for you. It's a 2-year cohort program, meaning you will finish a pre-planned career preparation and academic journey with the same students you started with. During your journey, you will get hands-on training in the classroom, an unpaid and paid internship at local dealerships such as Victorville Motors or Griner Buick GMC. Your personal protective gear, uniforms, and tools will be paid for. During your time, you will earn your associate's degree and well over 30 different professional industry recognized certificates, such as ASE, OSHA, Mitchell Manager, and many more. Most importantly, you will have job placement as a dealership automotive technician at the conclusion of the program. All you need to apply is an A or B in Auto 50 and Auto 77.3. Complete an SP2 careers portfolio, a letter of intent, and participate in a panel interview. And it gets better. You can complete program entry requirements while you're still in high school. Students who take Auto 1 or Auto 2 in high school and receive a B or better qualify to receive college credit for Auto 50. Auto 77.3 is offered at each high school through dual enrollment, and each school has services to help you complete your SP2 careers portfolio, letter of intent, and prepare for the panel interview. VVC's cohort program has space for 25 students each year, so don't hesitate. Contact your counselor today to get on a path to your high-wage, high-skill, in-demand dealership automotive technician career.
All right. Oops. Okay, so in bringing that to life, it is just a testament that what is going on here in our high schools can transition and align to our local community college. Just like the video said, by taking that Auto 50, which is our articulated course, and then taking that Auto 77.3, which I do believe is offered at the Victor School Districts and the Hesperia School Districts sites as well. So if you're interested in that, I will make sure that I send out this pamphlet, which is for the first cohort of kids. And if this cohort doesn't get in, then be prepared for our students, our local students, to try to apply for that in the second cohort.
Hey, thanks everybody for sitting bearing with us for the last hour and a half. I know it's always a good refresher for me as well to see you go through these presentations and hear through the CCI and the difference in articulation, dual enrollment, all that good stuff. So, today we talked about a lot of good things. Hopefully you got a sense of kind of the overview. If there's anything in particular, like those career path questions, like the one that came up earlier about, automotive and a kid taking the intro and the capstone at the same time, or, certainly your CTE coordinators can help, and then also MDCP is here to help you as well. So we can help with those alignment things. But please pepper us with the questions or things that you want to know more about. We're going to be following this up with a survey. So, we talked about a bunch of cool stuff today, and we're going to follow up with a survey. So hopefully you can give us some sense of things that may be more helpful for you to know more about, areas you may want to dive deeper into, and kind of what we could do in the later events that we have to shore up the content that we're planning on to ensure it's really effective for what you need. So as always, you can reach us through our website, email, phone numbers are all on there. And then this presentation will be shared out as well as that survey. And we thank you for your time. And then the links are there. I know they came out in email, and Jessica, I think you said you were going to share the presentation with people. We'll make the recording available for anybody who missed it at your office who may want to see it or anything you want to go back and review. And I think is this the last slide, Jessica?
Yeah, that's the last. Well, it's just like a little fun one after.